subject specific, so hopefully something will stick to your mind. I mean, this will be an overload of information this morning, but please bear with us. We're really trying to assist you. So if you have any questions, just stop me and ask, okay? I'll try to keep it short, not an hour and a half. Maybe half an hour, let's see. I think what I'm going to present here will definitely apply also just to academic writing in general, but more specifically then to the research proposal or your chapter 1, because your research proposal becomes your chapter 1 later on. You're just going to add to it and so on, okay? So please ask questions. I just wanted to quickly tell you, we attended a conference on Crete a few weeks ago, and talking about English, so I was quite surprised when one of the scholars there from Spain, and you know, at the conference you can clearly hear where somebody is coming from. So as you can hear that I'm an Afrikaner, isn't it? So, and there you've got Greeks, you've got Spaniards, you've got all kinds of people, and it's clear where they come from. So I don't ask any, what do you call it, to pardon my English or bear with my English, just take it as it is. So this one Spaniard came to me, a young guy, and he said to me, I want to propose to you. I thought, my goodness, I still haven't. But he wanted to make a proposal that we should write together or something, but I didn't correct his English. So please don't correct my English. That's what I'm going to do now. So I just want to tell you that in our department of biblical and ancient studies, we know it includes a lot of subjects. By the way, less bored than those subjects, isn't it? It was quite boring to me, the different subjects, but I mean, that's everybody's privilege to choose what you want to study. But in any case, we in our department compiled guidelines for your convenience. And if you haven't received it yet, please ask your supervisor, ask me, anyone. We can send it to you. And we've edited it recently, and we added the code of conduct, we added everything that you can think of is in there. So, and it's also for free. You can get it for free in our department. So, the guidelines for successful completion, it includes really a lot of stuff. Please make sure that you scan through it. I know you can't read everything, but make sure what's in the table of contents, then you know where to look for information. And that's our tailor-made departmental guidelines, okay? So you don't need to go to other sources. If you can, of course, but each and every discipline within our department has their own guidelines as well. I know New Testament are using other specific reference methods and so on, but this gives you a broad idea of what is expected. So in this guidelines, you can get much information about appointment of your supervisor and how it's being appointed. It's your prerogative to choose actually who you want to work with. And if you're not satisfied with that one, you can kick that one out and get another one. And there's also a place where you can, what do you do if you're not satisfied with your promoter or supervisor? But we won't tell it here. So the ethical clearance, everything you need to do and so on. You and your computer, read it, make backups. What's the page layout? What documents, what's the title that you give to your different drafts? It's very important, make backups. Somebody stole my laptop last year, and I was preaching to everybody to make backups, and I didn't for the last few months before he stole my laptop. It was just not good timing for me. And so, make sure that you read that information. It's really important. And how to attend to your supervisor's feedback. You know, we've got very strong people in this department, masters and doctoral students. You know, they're all, as you know, working. They're already standing in career in a profession somewhere, and it's more adult people. So, I mean, you talk back all the time, and we're used to it. But it's good, because we like it, and that's what keeps the discussion going. So, but you need to attend to your supervisor's feedback, or I always tell my students, take it or leave it. I'm always reading a draft of a proposal or a chapter that a student gives to me. I read as an examiner. What would I do if this is now something I need to examine? So I play devil's advocate. So I give you everything that comes up in my mind to tell you this is what you may expect from an examiner. So I'd rather give it to you now and you attend to it, or you wait for examiner or evaluator for your proposal or your thesis or master's dissertation later on, and you get it from them, and then you're going to blame me. But so, attend to your supervisor's feedback, but we'll come back to that later. Welcome, Susan. Yes. Good building blocks for good research. In that guidelines that we sent to you, there's a title or a heading, Know the Game. It's a game. Don't tell everybody, but it's a game. There are certain rules that you need to apply to. You need to do certain things in the right way. There need to be a proper chapter 1. There need to be proper reference methods and so on. So if you know the rules of the game, your life is so much easier when you do research. Just attend to those. Things to remember, you can read it there. I'm not going to repeat everything. Research management. Compile yourself a timeline. I know it's the most difficult thing to attend to stay true to that timeline, but try to manage your time. You can either write every day of your life, as you've heard from Professor van Wyk, 2 hours, or attend to your research 2 hours per day for the next 3 years in a master's or whatever, or and relax the rest of the time, or for the last 6 months try to do everything and rest for 10 minutes per day. So you can choose. Allocate time to your research. I promise you it won't get finished on its own. You need to do it. Nobody else is going to do it. So, allocate time, even if you are so busy. Tell your family, tell your friends, between 4 and 5 in the afternoon, you are not bothering me. I'm trying to write my research proposal, or whatever. You'll know what your situation is. I'll come back to the code of conduct later, and the avoidance of plagiarism. I can't emphasize that enough. Ek wil net met jou werk afspreek. Never mind, ek kom weg met die. Ja, hy was nie van my. Wat jy water ken jy by? Oh, elsewhere, right? I'm a librarian. Okay, yes?
Prof, just as a footnote, it's amazing how we've been to so many university workshops. You can't get slides right, despite the wealth of knowledge, and no university can get slides right.
No.
It's amazing.
No, we are retarded. We are BC. BC, some of us. Before computers. In any case, you know how it goes sometimes. You try to set a goal, but you can't keep it up. It is not always easy. And we know we all have got a life out there, and this is just sometimes your hobby, or something that you are just trying to stimulate your brain, whatever, but you need to allocate time to do your research and to do your work. There are different types of sources. As you know, I think Professor van Wyk has dealt with a lot of that, but I think, and you know the different categories of sources, I will attend to it just now, and to find the sources. I think Elsevier and all the others will tell you more about that. I won't waste your time. To choose a topic, I think Professor Vermaak has compiled this very interesting questionnaire. It's also in the guidelines. Which geographical areas are you interested in most? Which period? Which theme? Which type of sources are you going to use? What reading have you done? So this is all important questions that you need to ask when you do your research. You need to have one central theme, and the professor is asking the students, so what do all the projects you've worked on have in common? So and so, and he said there must be one underlying question, and she asked, why did I come to grad school? He said, no, that's too broad. Narrow it down. So it is a problem sometimes just to get your topic right. To what is your problem? Okay, I just want to emphasize, you need only one specific problem. In the past, I've asked you if I put a gun to your head, but I shouldn't use that metaphor here in our country. But if I ask you, what are you doing about, like he asked them, it's about violence, it's about Genesis 1, the interpretation of it, or whatever, but why? Why are you doing it? What is the problem? What is void in the research? How do I get a problem? You can discuss with your promoter to ask what is a possibility to work on of something that interests you, but also when you do your literature review, when you read, you will see, my goodness, but this is void in the research. This is something they're not answering. So you get it through a literature study to see what are the gaps in this specific area that I want to investigate. So, very important. If you forget everything I'm saying today, or you are hearing today, if you can remember that each element in your text should support your main aim of the study. Don't write nonsense and long stories and everything in footnotes and so on if it's not related to your problem. Ask yourself this question when you're writing whatever, your research proposal, your first chapter, your main chapters, how does it relate to my main topic? Is it related, or is this now not relevant? Very important. So that's the way that you can stay focused. How do I do it? I read, I write, I rinse, I repeat, and at the end, you need to start with your opening statement, isn't it? And you need to start with your writing. You can read forever, believe me. And every time you think, now I'm ready for an opening statement, there comes up something else. So my practical suggestion is start writing. Ask yourself, forget everything that you've read. Go sit down and ask yourself, what do I want to do? That's what the research proposal is. What do I want to do? Number one. And then you say, I want to do this and this and this. But don't write, say it out loud to somebody or record it. Because if you want to write, no, this is not the right way to say it out loud. Number two, why? Why? What is the problem? Why? What's the gap? And then how am I going to do it? That's what a research proposal is about. It is a layout or a written plan. It's a planning document. It's a blueprint. It's a timely execution to make sure that it's a timely execution of your research and to make sure that quality standards are met. It's to demonstrate to your supervisor that you know where you're going, and don't tell him, follow me, I'm lost. But you are supposed, it's a teamwork. It's teamwork. Can I emphasize again, I've always said, don't take any critical comments from your supervisor personally. It's not about you, it's about this work you're doing. And the supervisor is also giving his or her input. So it's really teamwork. It's supposed to be teamwork. If it's not, there's a problem, then you tell us. But that's why we emphasize also that the promoter or supervisor should give you written feedback. Not just on the phone or over lunch. You need written feedback. That you can see exactly what he or she means. The description, once again, sorry, it's a little bit of repetition, but just to perhaps to summarize in a way. First, your research proposal, the introduction or the background or whatever, is the what. What in, not please don't write 10 pages. We've got a life, eh? So just write, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? I really want to investigate the Beni Haza mural. It shows some Semitic traders, and why are they there? What are they doing there? Where do they come from? And so on. Something like that. You've got many very interesting topics. I wish I had the time to ask you about it, because you've got really interesting topics. In ancient Near Eastern studies, classics all over the place. So, then the next one is your problem statement. You can write a paragraph or two if you know what you're doing. You know, it's much more of a skill to write shorter than longer. So, in a page then, if you want, what do you want to do? I really want to do this and this and that. Then, why? Why? One sentence. We don't want to have long stories, please. One sentence or two, maybe a paragraph. I've read this and this, and I've seen here and there. These are the gaps in the research that I would like to investigate. Then, a review of the relevant literature, how the new knowledge will be created. So, the sources here, these are the sources. Now, I'll talk about the sources just now. And then, again, how is your research methodology? Your approach. It's very important what Professor van Wyk said. Make sure that you, from the start, you know what your theoretical framework, your methodology will be within which you will look to this specific problem. It's an archaeological approach, or it is a geographical approach, or it will be a textual approach, or whatever. In that wonderful guidelines, you will get many different possibilities of methodologies. Have a look if that's, and it even refers you to even better books that you can read about. Get a proper methodology, a proper approach, and apply it to your work. A description of how the findings will be used, the methodology, approach, and the structure. I've now said this is what I want to do, this is why I want to do it, this is how this is the literature I'm going to use, and then what is the structure? Show me. How will you now structure your master's or your thesis? Chapter 2, you don't start with chapter 1, you've already got chapter 1, you're busy with chapter 1. Chapter 2, the title will be this, and a short description. Chapter 3, chapter 4, chapter 5. The different disciplines in our department use different methods in terms of the structure. Some will say your literature review should be a separate chapter. We don't do it in biblical archaeology. In your first chapter, all those things are there. But it's your choice. You need to make sure what your promoter wants. Description of how the findings will be used. That's not always relevant in our departments, but it can be valid. So, this is how, you know, he's also a professor, by the way, and I think he's driving his students mad, but in any case. The structure of the research proposal, once again, introduction, what? Problem statement, 1 or 2 sentences, maybe a paragraph, why? Aims and objectives, and problem statement and or research questions. Of course, you have a main problem. You have and then you have research questions. You can come up with hundreds, thousands of research questions, but you need to focus on what are the main important questions I want to investigate. What are those questions that I want to tackle? And those questions should correlate with your aims and objectives. Your main problem statement is your main aim, isn't it? It's actually just a repetition, but it's just another way of formulating where you're heading with this. So my main research problem is my main aim. My main aim is to do this. My objectives is now just your questions. You take your questions and you say, instead of I'm going to investigate the Beni Hassan mural, my main object, or what can I learn from the Beni Hassan mural? I will say my objective is to investigate what we can determine from it. So you just in another way put your statement. It's actually more than the objectives. And then please remember your problem statements, your questions, your aims and objectives, and your structure should go together. You can't come up with a main problem statement and goals and everything, objectives, but we can't see it in your structure of your proposal. Understand? So in each and every chapter, you are now going to show us how are you going to reach your goals or investigate these problems in your research outline, your structure. That's very important. So a good examiner will also look at your problems and your research questions, your objectives, and they will look in each chapter, in your introduction, which objectives are you dealing, or research questions are you dealing with in this chapter. You need to tell your reader, otherwise they won't know. Okay, hypothesis, we can talk about that. In my view, and I've attended quite a number of workshops on it, on academic writing and so on. The hypothesis, in my view, is there's a preliminary solution to the problem. You can't come up with the answer now already. I mean, why are you doing the research then, if you already know the answer? In my view, and people may differ here, I just say that this approach, say for instance an archaeological approach to this text, might illuminate this problem, or whatever. Okay? So how will your approach, your methodology, illuminate or help to find the answer? That's my idea. Or that I've learned, in previous workshops. So the motivation for your study is significant to your study only when you're doing a doctorate. So I just want to emphasize, people who are doing honors also need to write a research proposal, isn't it, for your first module? So those people, you're applying exactly those things. All these things that I mentioned, isn't it? It's just all in a shorter way, actually. Then the literature review, we've got primary, secondary, and tertiary sources. What are primary sources? Tell me. Yes?
Like an artifact?
An artifact? Well, like what?
A piece of pottery, or maybe a written text.
Ostraka, yes. Okay, what else? Anything? You from the Ancient Near Eastern Studies Department, tell me any significant primary source The Beni Hasan mural is this one, yes?
Sorry, not for a mouth. Something in my mouth. The Dead Sea Scrolls.
Dead Sea Scrolls. What else?
Oh, what did you say? Text from the time.
Exactly, ancient texts. What else? What can we get? Yeah?
Bones.
What?
Bones.
Bones, yeah. One student did his doctorate on teeth of mummies and ancient people. And he compiled a control card to say what do you do when you find a tooth in an excavation. Interesting, isn't it? So number one, look at the what do you call it? Marks on the teeth, the quality of the consistency or whatever you get in the tooth when you analyze it, and all such kind of things. So it can be a very powerful primary source. What else? Magneta stelas, different obelisk, things that's written that they find in ancient sites and so on. It is really numerous. They are numerous. Okay, those are the primary sources. The Hebrew Bible can also be the Dead Sea Scrolls, as you said, ancient texts. Are, in some cases, the Hebrew Bible are the only primary source that we have of a certain period. Okay. Then secondary sources are mainly books. Maybe I should just go back to the primary sources first. When you write your dissertation, you always go back to your first chapter. In the beginning, it's so important to get your chapter 1 or proposal right, okay, to know where you're heading. But at the end, you will go back to that chapter because it has changed a lot, you'll see. So, and then, while you are working, you will realize, my goodness, but this is also a primary source that I'm using. Then list it there. Show the people which are the primary sources that you're using, because it's important to use primary sources as well, especially in our subjects or disciplines. The secondary sources are mainly books. Mainly books that, the most important books that are written on our subjects, okay? So we need to see that you have covered it. For the proposal, we need to see that you've read the most important books. And if you have a promoter that is awake, he will tell you, or she will tell you, hey, what about this book, and what about that one? You haven't covered everything. There are more books. Okay, it's preliminary. A research proposal is preliminary sources consulted. So, of course, there are many more. But just to show you've started, you're out of the blocks. Okay? You're not just trying to get to your opening statement. You've already read something and you are writing something. That's what we want to see. And each and every book you're going to tell us. And then again, it's also always a good thing to take the topics of your chapters. To say, in this chapter, you don't need to say it like that, but these books will be relevant to this and that, to add to the knowledge of investigating the following topic. And so for each and every chapter, okay? And it needs to relate again with your research questions and your objectives. Good. The limitations, usually we'll say this is an archaeological approach. It's not a historical, critical approach to the Bible or whatever. If you use the Bible, if it's in ancient literature or in biblical archaeology, what is this study not? This study is this, but it's not that. This study only focuses on this period, not the broader period or whatever. Okay, then methodology and structure. We've already spoken about it, the approach, the structure of the dissertation, the definition of terms. You can read about it in the guidelines, abbreviations and bibliography, timeline, everything. Okay, the first chapter of a thesis is basically an adapted research proposal. So if you do your research proposal well, then you've already started. When you have finished your research proposal here, you can start with chapter 2, if you do it properly. Okay? So, and once again, about feedback from your promoter or supervisor. Don't be heilerig, hey? Don't be, what is it in English? Theory. Really, it's not personal. And if you think, yes, I've got it, and you send it to your promoter or supervisor, and no, it wasn't final yet, because he or she's got some comments on it, recommendations. It's good. If you get feedback, say hallelujah, because that's what you need to get. That's what you need to get from your supervisor or promoter, and it can end up at your final revised number 22 draft. But please don't be teary. Don't take it personal. Just do it. And if you don't agree, just say it. And then take the consequences. Okay? The promoter is not always right. I promise you. And I can remember that I've really put up a fight to say, I'm not going to do it this way, I'm going to do it that way. And sometimes you win some, you lose some, and then you need to take the consequences. So, code of conduct. In that wonderful guidelines that we've sent to you, there's a code of conduct that you need to fill out. Please, and send it to your promoter before the end of May. Okay? And then he or she will look into it, and you can agree on what you need to agree on. What are your expectations from your promoter? What is his or her expectations from you? Because actually it is your research and your project. So you need to do most of the work. No, also both need to work. In any case, the supervision arrangements, when can you expect to get feedback? A month, a year, 2 years, 3 years for one chapter? No. Agree upon how long. Say, may I, dear professor, may I expect from you, if I give you a chapter, may I please expect from you to give it back to me within a month or two? What do you say? Agree. Written feedback. Ask, discuss it with your promoter or supervisor. You can look at all those other things, please. And then in that guidelines that we sent to you, there is an attachment B1 with more information that you need to look at, please. I think you've already all received it. The departmental expectations. Did you see it? No? We've sent it to most of the students. In that you've received the dates for the workshops, and the fact that you are here, I think you've received it. But the next workshop is 9 and 10 September this year, 2019. Okay? And then you won't believe me, but each and every one of you will present something that day. And don't think you can get away with it. You're getting a black mark behind your name if you don't turn up. I'm just joking. So please, if you don't want to present something, beg or bribe your supervisor to do it. But no, please, we want in 5 minutes. You can just say something, tell us, I am doing this and this and that. Okay? 5 minutes. What's that? That's nothing. So you don't need to have a presentation and jokes and everything. You just tell us what it's all about. 5 minutes. Just to show that you are on track.
In order for us also then to engage and give feedback.
Absolutely. And then we can back chat, and we can tell us, hey, but why are you doing that? That's silly, or that's a good idea, or whatever, or have you thought about this and that? Just to give some, what do you call it? Yeah. I think that's the important thing, that we can give some and discuss some of the topics. I think most of the topics we'll give some feedback as well. Then please, in this document that we've sent to you is the B1. The expectations from the department is all students are required to submit the first draft of their proposals by 31st of May, a structure just to show you are busy working, okay? So you can start today to work 10 minutes per day, or you can try to rush it the night before, on the 30th of May. So just start working on it. It's simple. Keep it simple. You can always, refer to your sources later, but just go and write it down from the top of your head, somewhere from the top of your head. Supervisors are requested to give students written feedback on all drafts. You can send a draft to your supervisor now already. I promise you, you may. That's our jobs. We are paid to do that. So, and go and see your supervisor or promoter if you're uncertain. Then, with this code of conduct, in that file that we sent you, there's also a supervision progress report. You know what? Sometimes there are some problems. We encounter some problems from either the students or the promoter, and we need those to be completed twice per year. The 31st of May for all masters and doctoral students, and again before the 31st of July. And tell us, when did you submit which chapter? You need to keep record of it. When did you submit your chapter to the promoter? What did you get back? Not just the email. If it's just the email, you say. Was it written feedback? Was it proper? Do you think did it help you at all? But of course, we don't want now you to gossip behind the backs of our promoters or supervisor. Rather, take it up with your promoter in the first place. If you don't get feedback, go and see that person. Try everything in your ability to keep the peace. It's like my children. They used to tell me, they say, "Mother, just be kind, because we're going to choose your old age home one day." so I try to behave, but of course it should be a good relationship. And if it's not, there's ways to go about. Then you contact us, me specifically at the Higher Degrees Committee, and you tell me there's a problem, I don't get feedback, I've tried, I've done everything, I've blew the whistle, everything, but please, I don't get any reaction. Maybe something happened to your promoter in his office. We can have a look if he's not still there. They work so hard. We work so very hard. So, and maybe it's just a question of the laptop was stolen, that I didn't see the email, So anything could have happened, but please, first take it up with your promoter or supervisor, and then if you don't get the satisfactory reaction or response from your promoter, write to me. It's also in the guidelines, and then we will try to, from our side, to assist you, because sometimes you really you can encounter some problems, but we hope it won't happen. By the end of September, so you're going to present something on the 9th and 10th of September, and then, or by the end of September, a final draft of your research proposal needs to be submitted. Through your promoter, of course, and by then your promoter should have read it a few times and I've given you feedback. So please send it in. That's the latest date. Then it goes, just to tell you something about the process, then it goes to evaluators, examiners, you can say, that will give you feedback, and if it's accepted, then we send it in for the final result to the university. Okay, that will be around by the end of November, more or less. But no late proposals will be accepted, the end of September. Of course, when you write a master's or a doctoral thesis, there are another process. I'm sure your promoters will discuss that with you, but the same thing applies. If you send in a chapter to your promoter, you need to get written feedback and then attend to those comments. It's not just because we've got nothing else to do that we write something for you, love letters. It is something supposed to be to assist you, and I think that is all of our attention. What do you call it? Reports. The supervision reports should be in by the end of June. There's two different for the masters and doctoral students. Sorry, research proposals. Questionnaires should be in by the end of the proposal. Sorry, by the end of May and end of June. But for the masters and doctoral students, reports, the supervision reports, needs to be in by the end of June and the end of October, twice yearly, just to make sure that everything is on track. Any questions? Any questions? Nothing.
Who must write in the supervision report? The
Yeah.
student or the...
Both student and the promoter. Twice yearly, I will say, Mrs. Zili have sent me chapter 2 in February. I've given feedback this date. We've discussed some stuff on the telephone. Then she sent me chapter 3, and I will from my side, but it is independent from each other. So both needs to be sent into the higher degrees committee, and we look at it, the head of department, that's his instructions. He's going to look into it, and if there's a problem from either side, then we want to deal with it. Because we've got too many corpses behind us lately. And we don't want that. We really want to serve you well, and we hope that will make a difference. So once again, I really want to tell you, if you don't believe me, try. We believe in you. You are important. We're here to help you grow. You are listened to. I will hold you to high expectations. You are capable. We will have fun most of the time, and you will succeed. So we really hope that will be true of your experience at UNISA in this department, and please feel free anytime to phone us if you have a problem, if you don't know how to deal with it. Ask your promoter, number one. If not, take other measures. We will try to assist you wherever possible. Any other questions? Yes?
Just your contact details.
Okay, sure. Do you have a problem? Yes, I'll give it to you. You want my email? Maybe it's the best to send the email. Yeah, it is in the guidelines, but I can give it. It's L for LaRoux, LROUX M1. Not LaRoux, but LROUX M1 at unisa.ac.za.
Thank you.
Pleasure.